Our group need to discuss the origin of neoclassical school and state three extension of economic analysis by that school as compared to early classical and marginalist school. We also need to explain how Alfred Marshall combined the idea of Adam Smith and William Stanley Jevons to further explain the theory of value market prices of goods and services. Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Fatih Shafika binti Izam Jamiri. My number matric is 291277. My group member consists of Nur Amisha Fazira binti Zamri. Number matric 295162. The next person is Humaira Safia binti Hazin 291868. Next one is Chong Yao Dong. Number matric 294036. The next person is Ho Zilong 292636. And the last person is Muhammad Aizuddin bin Alias. Number matric 293493. And we are from group 5. So, in the first slide of our presentation, I will explain to you guys the origin of the neoclassical school of economics. The neoclassical school of economics emerged in the late of 19th century. For your information, it is a reaction to the classical school, and it also a response to the marginal revolution. It sought to formalize economic theory using mathematical models. And then, it is also to explain the economic phenomena through the concept of marginal utility and the marginal productivity. For the next slide, as you guys can see, there is 4 people which is the key figures of the neoclassical school. So, the first one is William Stanley Jevons. He introduced the concept of marginal utility. He also argued that the value of a good depends on its marginal utility rather than its cost of production. The next one is the Karl Menger. Karl Menger independently developed the concept of marginal utility and applied it to explain consumer behavior and the price determination. The third one is Leon Walras. Leon Walras developed the theory of general equilibrium, which analyzes how different markets interact and each equilibrium simultaneously. The last one is Alfred Marshall. Alfred Marshall synthesized the ideas of marginal utility and marginal productivity, and the famous book of him is The Principle of Economics. It is the book that became the foundation of neoclassical economics. In this slide, I will explain to you guys the core principle of neoclassical economics. As you guys can see in the slide, there is 5 core principles of neoclassical economics. The first one is rationality. Individuals are assumed to be rational and make choices that maximize their utility. The next one is marginalism. Economic decisions are made at the margin, considering the additional benefits and cost of a particular action. The third one is equilibrium. Markets tend to move towards equilibrium where supply and demand balance. At the equilibrium, the quantity of demand and the quantity of supply is the same quantity. The next one is methodological individualism. Economic phenomena can be explained by understanding the behavior of individual agents. And the last one is price theory. Prices are determined by the interaction of supply and demand, and they reflect the marginal cost of production and the marginal utility of consumption.
Now we will discuss about the 3 extensions of economic analysis by neoclassical school compared to the classical and marginalist school. The first extension that we will discuss about is the theory of value and price determination. Compared to the classical school led by economists like Adam Smith, David Ricardo, and Karl Marx centered its value theory on the labor theory of value. According to this view, product value is largely determined by amount of labor required to produce it. Smith used this theory to distinguish between use value and exchange value, but did fully account for how consumer preference affect price. The limitation is that classical theory focused on long-term value determination, influenced heavily by production costs and supply side factors. This model often struggles with demand-side consideration, failing to explain cases like diamond water paradox, why some necessities are cheap while some luxury are expensive. Compared to marginalist school, the marginalist school shifted the focus to subjective value by introducing the concept of marginal utility. Economists like William Stanley, Jevons, Karl Marx, and Leo Morales argue that value is based on the satisfaction, utility, a consumer gain from each additional unit of a good. This subjective approach to value means that consumer demand becomes a primary determinant of price. The limitation is that marginalists focus on the demand side of value but did not fully integrate production cost or supply side factor into their framework. As a result, they provide a one-side analysis that was limited in explaining the combined effect of production cost and consumer preference. Neoclassical school, Alfred Marshall on the Neoclassical school bridged this gap by integrating both demand and supply into comprehensive framework. He proposed that value is determined by the interaction of consumer demand based on utility and producer cost based on labor and resources, reaching market equilibrium where these two forces meet. This integration allows a fuller understanding of a price fluctuation based on change in either consumer preference or production condition. Marshall's supply-demand equilibrium model becomes central to modern microeconomics. The second extension is the market structure and competition. On classical school primarily assumed that markets were perfectly competitive, where no single buyer or seller has the power to influence price. In this setting, many firms and consumers interact freely, and prices are determined by the force of supply and demand, without monopolistic distortion. The limitation is that this assumption of perfect competition was simplistic and did not account for real-world market imperfection, or instances where firm-wide market power such as monopoly. Classical models often fail to address pricing strategy in industry with limited competitive or product differentiation. On marginal school, we also operate under the assumption of perfect competition, concentration on how individuals maximize their utility, and firms maximize profit based on marginal cost. However, their focus remains primarily on consumer choice and marginal analysis rather than analyzing a variety of market structure. The limitation that the marginal framework did not deeply explore scenario involving monopoly power or oligopoly dynamic. It largely ignored market structure where firms could manipulate price, which limited its applicability to real-world market. However, in neoclassical school, extend economic analysis to consider imperfect competition and market power. Economists like John Robinson and Edward Chamberlain expanded the study of market to include monopoly competition, oligopoly, and monopoly. Significant that this allows economists to analyze pricing strategy, product differential, and price discrimination in imperfect competitive market by studying how firms with market power set price and influence market outcome. Neoclassical economists developed insights that are now foundation in fields like industrial organization and competitive policy. The third intention is the role of money and economic stability. point view of classical schools that view money as a tool for facilitating transaction, but ultimately neutral in affecting real economic variables like output or employment. They believe that money did not influence the real economy in the long term, as price would adjust proportionally to change in money supply. The limitation is that this assumption of neutrality means that classical theory did not fully develop a framework for monetary policy or understanding how fluctuation in money supply could cause economic cycle. The classical approach overlooked the role of interest rate and credit condition in shaping economic stability. The Imaginary school focus heavily on utility and individual choice, giving minimal attention to the role of money. Their model largely ignore how money supply and interest rate could affect consumption, investment, or production. By overlooking monetary aspect, the marginalist school missed out on understanding how monetary policy influence economic behavior and stability, leaving a gap in explaining how economy respond to monetary change. The new classical school led by figures like Irving Fisher and Knut Wicksell recognized that money significantly impact economic stability. They explore how money supply, interest rate, and credit availability could influence investment, price level, and business cycle. Fisher equation of exchange MV equal to PT linked money supply to price level and output, while Wicksell theory on interest rate show how they could drive economic expansion or contraction. This initially led to the development of modern monetary policy framework, where central banks manage economic stability through tools like interest rate adjustment and control over the money supply. Neoclassical contribution in monetary economy led to the foundation for policy aimed at controlling inflation and promoting economic growth.
Good day, Doctor. My name is Nur Amisha Fazira binti Zamri with matric number 295162. I will be discussing on Adam Smith and his theory of value. Adam Smith is from the classical school from 1723 to 1719, and he is an 18th century Scottish economist, philosopher, and an author. He developed the concept of division of labour and expounded upon how rational self-interest and competition can lead to economic prosperity. Apart from that, Smith was also known as the father of modern economy. Now I'm going to explain about the diamond water paradox in classical school by Adam Smith. In this theory, there are two types of value, which is value in use (VIU) and value in exchange (VIE). The definition of VIU, value in use, is the utility of some particular object, which means that things that have biggest or greatest value in use have frequently little or no value in exchange at all. For instance, water, even though water is essential to our daily life. While value in exchange means the power of purchasing other goods which the possession of the object convey. This means things that have frequently little or no value in use will have the greatest value in exchange. For example, diamond. Even though it is not important to our daily life, however, Adam Smith still failed to solve this diamond water paradox because he did not understand the two concepts, that is, first, total utility and marginal utility, and second, the law of diminishing total utility. As a result, Smith directed his analysis only on exchange value, which is value in exchange. Next, labor theory of value. Adam Smith discussed this theory of value in primitive society and advanced society. He also argued that labor was the only resource got in primitive society, which means the quantity of labor required to make a good would determine its relative value. Basically, a value of commodity that is going to be exchanged to another commodity is equal to the quantity of labor that enable the person who owns the actual commodity to purchase or command. Based on Smith's deer beaver example, suppose it takes 2 hours to trap a beaver and 1 hour to hunt and shoot a deer, then the value exchange in beaver equal to 2 deers or 2 hours of labor. This is because the first one shows that each deer requires only 1 hour of labor to harvest. Meanwhile, the second one, a person could use the beaver to command 2 hours of labor service. Therefore, in primitive society, labor cost is equal to labor command. In advanced society, normally goods are exchanged for money or labor at a price that is sufficient to pay salaries, rent and profit. The real value of commodities are no longer be measured by the labor contained in them, but it can be measured by the quantity of labor where it can be purchased or command. Plus, the quantity of labor a commodity can buy exceeds the quantity of labor embodied in its production by the total profit and rent, and it is equal to the labor command exceed the labor cost. Now I will provide a very short summary about what we have discussed. To encapsulate the theory of value from classical school, the market price is determined by the cost of production. We will take peers as an example. The common question that we have about peers would be, do peers have value because people need to die for them, or do people die for peers because peers have value? According to Adam Smith, it is because people need to die for them. Thank you.
Good day, Doctor. My name is Myra Safia binti Hazin. My matric number is 291868. Today, I would like to introduce William Stanley Jevons from Marginalist School, and I will share some key highlights about his background and also his theory. So, William Stanley Jevons was an English economist and logician, renowned for his work in the field of economics, particularly for contributing to the development of marginal utility theory and his pioneering work in the area of mathematical economics. So, Jevons was born in Liverpool and educated at University College London and later at the University of Paris. He initially pursued a career in science, particularly in chemistry, and he even worked as a government chemist. However, his interest eventually shifted toward economics, which he studied deeply in the 1860s. He is the best known for formulating the law of diminishing marginal utility, which states that as a person consumes more of a good or service, the satisfaction of utility derived from each additional unit of consumption tends to decrease. This principle became central to classical and neoclassical economic theory. In 1865, Jevons published his major work, The Theory of Political Economy, which presented his theories of value, utility, and exchange. He also introduced the concept of the Jevons paradox, which suggested that as technological improvements increased the efficiency of resource use, so the overall consumption of that resource may actually increase due to lower costs and higher demand. Jevons also contributed to the field of logic, particularly in his development of a system for symbolic logic. His work influenced subsequent economists like Fred Marshall and Leon Walras. Additionally, his contribution to economic methodology, including his use of mathematics to model economic behavior, and marked a shift toward more rigorous and formal economic analysis. So Jevons' career was cut short by his ultimate death, and at the age of 48 in a drowning accident, but his works remains foundational to the field of economics. So I will continue for the Jevons on value theory. So in value theory, solve the diamond water paradox by explaining of the three concepts, which is total utility, marginal utility, and law of diminishing marginal utility. So the first one is total utility. Total satisfaction a person receives from consuming a particular quantity of good.
Like we are hungry, so we want to eat one slices of pizza, but after we eat one slice pizza, it was not enough, so we eat another slices or the whole pizza. Second one is marginal utility. Additional utility a person receive from consuming an additional unit of a particular good. So just now I give example about the pizza. The additional utility, which an additional we need a second or the third pizza. The last one is law of diminishing marginal utility. So marginal utility gained by consuming equal successive unit of good will decline as the amount consumed increase. Like when we are hungry, our satisfaction of the first slices of pizza was so high. But when we eat the another slices of pizza, it will come down because we already feel not hungry like the first bite. So I think it is what related each other. As you can see the both graph, which is the A is a total utility and the B is marginal utility. So we see that total utility is increased, meanwhile marginal utility is decreasing. So marginal utility gained by consuming equal successive units of a good will decline as the amount consumed increase. So I will explain the relationship between total utility and marginal utility and how they help us understand satisfaction when consuming goods. So let's start with the first graph. Total utility or TU shows how happy or satisfied you are when consuming a certain amount of a good, like eating slices of pizza. At first, every slice adds a lot of happiness, so the curve rises quickly. But over time, each new slice adds less and less satisfaction. So that's why the curve slows down and flattens out. For example, at S1. So you reach a total satisfaction of TU1. So now let's look at the second graph, which is the marginal utility. Marginal utility measures how much extra happiness you get or you got from one more unit of the good. For example, if you eat one extra slice of pizza, how much happy does it make you? As you consume more, this extra happiness gets smaller. This is called the law of diminishing marginal utility. So we can see at X1, and the extra happiness from one more unit is MU1 and U1, which is smaller than the first few slices. So these two graphs are connected because marginal utility is the slope of total utility. When TU is growing quickly, MU is tight. So when TU starts to flatten, MU gets smaller. Eventually, when TU stops growing, MU will reach zero. So this means consuming more doesn't add any satisfaction. So to wrap up, TU shows your total happiness while MU shows the extra happiness from one more unit. So the law of diminishing marginal utility explains why you enjoy the first few units more than the later ones. So this helps us understand how people make choices about how much to consume. So I will explain about diamond water paradox resolve. Diamond water will resolve by this concept of total utility, where it said that total utility of water is high because of water is extremely useful. Meanwhile, diamond is low because diamonds are not as useful as water. Because as a human, we consume water to alive, but diamond is more to like things that we keep and we don't use to keep us alive. So if totality of water is more than total utility of diamond, and why isn't the price of water more than price of diamonds? Because price does not reflect total utility but marginal utility, and marginal utility of water less than marginality of diamonds. It is because we can look for water everywhere. Every country have water. Meanwhile, for the diamond, not every single place has diamond, and it's not easy to find for diamond. So as a result, the next additional unit of water give less utility than the next units of diamond. So the impact when people would rather have an additional diamond than an additional unit of water given large stock of water. So for the summary, as we can see here at the graph, when the quantity is bigger than the price and the price is lower, it is like when we have a large quantity or stock of water, the price will be decreased. Meanwhile, when the diamond, we have a small quantity of diamond, so the price will be increased. So we look at this question. Do pearls have value because people need to die for them, or do people die for pearls because pearls have value? So the answer is people die for pearls because pearls have value. So buyers get utility from it. Just like the diamond. Diamond have a high value because it's a rare case. So that is why the price of diamond or pearls is higher than the price of water, because I think water is everywhere. Thank you.
Next, I will introduce to you one of the known economists, which is Alfred Marshall. Alfred Marshall was a prominent English economist and one of the leading figures of the neoclassical school. He is often referred to as the founder of the Cambridge School of Neoclassicism. Marshall was born in London to a middle-class family and showed academic promise early on, particularly in mathematics. He attended the Merchants Taylors School and later St. John's College, Cambridge, where he excelled in mathematics and earned a fellowship. His academic career led him to become a professor of political economy at the University of Cambridge, a position he held from 1985 to 1908. During this time, he made a significant contribution to economic theory, focusing on macroeconomics and the analysis of individual markets and industry. Marshall's Principle of Economics book became a foundational text in economics. Next, we will take a look at the Marshall value theory. In this slide, I will explain to you guys about the law of demand supply. Alfred Marshall's scissors analogy is a powerful way to visualize the interaction between supply and demand in determining market prices. You guys imagine two blades of a pair of scissors. The first blade represents demand. This shows the quantity of good or service that consumers are willing and able to buy at the different prices. As the price of good decrease, consumers typically demand more of it. Conversely, as the price increase, demand decrease. This relationship between price and quantity demand is often illustrated by downward sloping demand curve. The second blade represents supply. This shows that the quantity of good or service that producers are willing and able to supply at different prices. As the price of good increases, producers are generally willing to supply more of it, as they can earn higher profits. Conversely, as the price decreases, supplies tend to decrease. This relationship between price and quantity supplied is often illustrated by an upward sloping supply curve. The point where the demand and supply curve intersect is known as the equilibrium point. At this point, the quantity demanded by consumers equals the quantity supplied by producers. The corresponding price at this point is the equilibrium price. Let's see the points that we need to remember. The first point is both supply and demand are essentials. Neither supply nor demand alone determines the price. It is the interactions between the two that sets the equilibrium prices. The next point is changes in supply or demand shift the equilibrium. If a factor affects either supplies or demand, the curves will shift leading to a new equilibrium price and quantity. The next point is the market is self-correcting. If the price is above the equilibrium, there will be a surplus, leading to downward pressure on the price. If the price is below the equilibrium, there will be a shortage, leading to upward pressure on the price. This self-correcting mechanism helps to maintain market equilibrium, as both blades of a pair of scissors are necessary to cut paper. Both supply and demand are necessary to determine the market price. If either supply or demand changes, the equilibrium point will shift, leading to a new price and new quantity. Next, we will see about the time concept that was introduced by Alfred Marshall. Alfred Marshall's concept of time periods offers a valuable framework for understanding how supply and demand interact to determine prices in different market conditions. He differentiated between the short run and the long run, each with distinct characteristics and implications for price determinations. In short run, supply is relatively fixed. It is because in short run, producers have limited ability to adjust their production levels. This is because they are constrained by existing factors of production, such as plant size, machinery, and labor contracts. As a result, the supply curve is relatively inelastic, meaning that changes in price have a limited impact on the quantity supplied. The next point is demand determines prices. Since supply is relatively fixed, a demand becomes the primary driver of price fluctuations in the short run. If demand increases, the price will rise, and if demand decreases, the price will fall. In the long run, supply is more flexible. It is because in the long run, producers have greater flexibility to adjust their production levels. They can expand their production capacity by building new plants, acquiring additional machinery, or hiring more workers. This makes the supply curve more elastic, meaning that changes in price have a greater impact on the quantity supplied. Next, supply and demand interact to determine price. In the long run, both supply and demand play a significant role in determining prices. If demand increases, producers can respond by increasing supply over time, leading to a new equilibrium price. Conversely, if demand decreases, producers may reduce their output, leading to a lower equilibrium price. Next, short-run price fluctuations. In the short run, prices can be volatile as demand shifts. However, these fluctuations are temporary as supply eventually adjusts in the long run. In the long run equilibrium, the market tends to move towards an equilibrium where the quantity supplied equals the quantity demand. This equilibrium price is determined by a long-run cost structure of a production.
Hello, my name is Hong Zilong, and today I would like to talk about consumer surplus. Consumer surplus is a difference between the maximum amount a consumer is willing to pay for a good and the actual price they pay. According to Marshall theory, additional benefits consumers receive when they pay a price lower than what they would be willing to pay for a good. As you can see from the graph, consumer surplus is the area under the demand curve and above the price level. So, when at low price, consumer surplus will increase. Now, moving on the elasticity of demand. Elasticity of demand is a measurement of the percentage change in quantity demand as a result of a percentage change in price. It aims to measure how sensitive the quantity demanded to its price. Elastic demand happens when price change will result in a loss effect in quantity demand. But inelastic demand happens when price change will result in a little effect in quantity demand. And unique elastic demand happens when percentage change in price is the same as percentage change in quantity demand, we can calculate it with the formula to measure that is more than, less than, or equal to 1. Okay, so now I will summarize the 5 graphs of price elasticity of demand. The first graph is perfect elastic demand, and the graph shows that a price increase or decrease won't change the quantity demand. The second graph is inelastic demand, and it shows that price change causes only a little change in quantity demand. The third graph is unique elastic demand, and it shows that a price change causes the same percentage change in quantity demand. The fourth graph is elastic demand, and is a small price change causes a big change in quantity demand. The fifth graph is perfectly inelastic demand, and it shows that demand does not change no matter the price change. Okay, let's now talk about supply. Supply is a curve that the quantity producers are willing to supply at different price level. Marshall emphasized that the supply of goods is influenced by the cost of production. If production costs are higher, producers need higher price to supply the same quantity of goods. Marshall also explained that supply behavior by dividing times into 3 periods, and there is immediate, present, short run, and long run. So here is 3 time period by Marshall. Firstly is immediate present. The quantity supply cannot change immediately in response to change in demand. If the good is perishable, supply is perfectly inelastic because sellers prefer selling at any price rather than letting it spoil. The next is short run. So short run, producer can adjust some input, but fixed costs remain the same. Two types of costs, fixed costs and variable costs in the short run. Variable costs can change the level of production like raw material, while fixed costs only remain the same with the level of production. So it's like that. And the lastly is long run. Long run is the production can adjust all input, including building new facility or entering existing the markets.
So next, I will continue the part of Marshall determinant of equilibrium. So what determines market price? The classical school say supply which is cooperation. The marginalist school say demand which is marginal utility. The neoclassical school combine the both idea of classical school and marginalist school, which think that demand and supply or marginal utility and cooperation is determine market price. Marshall illustrated his idea of equivalent competitive market price and quantity by using a table and a graph. So below show the table. So you can see the table so that when the price is 37 shilling, the holder are willing to sell at 900 units and the buyer are willing to buy at 700 units, which make a supply of 300 units of cubes. So this situation will make price push downward until it achieves equilibrium, which is 36 shillings. When the price is too low, which is at 35 shillings, the holder are willing to sell at 600 units and the buyer are willing to buy at 900 units, which make a shortage of 300 units of cubes. So this shortage will drive the price upward until to 36 shillings, which is equilibrium. So you can see that when the price is too high or too low, the price will increase or decrease until it achieves equilibrium at 36 shillings, which the amount of holder are willing to sell and the amount of buyer are willing to buy are the same. So next I will continue to talk about the Marshall idea of price equilibrium. So you can see the graph in the side. So the graph shows that the market price and quantity is equivalent when the supply curve are intersect with the demand curve. So when the situation of price level higher than market price or price level lower than the market price occurs, the market will adjust the price by hinging and banging, which make the price down when surplus and the price up when shortage, until the price achieve equivalence where the demand equal to supply, which make the buyer receive consumer surplus, which is the green area in the graph, and the seller receives producer surplus, which is the red area in the graph. So summary, according to Alfred Marshall, supply, which is co-production, and demand, which is marginal utility, is the determinant of price. So look at the question. Do pear have value because people need to die for them, or do people die for pear because pear have value? So according to Alfred Marshall, we can answer that pear have value because people need to die for them, and people die for pear because pear have value also. So the price of pear is determined by buyer willingness to pay, which is demand, and the cost to produce them, which is supply. So in conclusion, the classical school, which is represented by Adam Smith, is emphasizing supply. Cost of production is the significant determinant of price. The marginalist school, which is represented by William Stanley Jevons, was emphasized demand utility is the significant determinant of price. The neoclassical school, which is represented by Alfred Marshall, was emphasized supply, co-production, and demand. Marginal utility is the determinant of price. So